recording on. Okay. All right. This session will be recorded. I will start the recording now. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Center for Community-Based Learning for Transformational Partnerships and Weathering the Storms Together, our third and final webinar of our Summer 2021 Back to the Community series. My name is Dr. Allery Gibbs. I'm the curricular coordinator with the Center for Community-Based Learning, and I will be your moderator for today's session. Susan Trudeau, our center's co-curricular coordinator, will be our co-monitor for this session as well. Today, our presenters will share their experiences with community-based learning, those same challenges and successes we've heard in the previous sessions, but also highlighting the role of the community partner. We will hear directly from UNF faculty and community partners who offer their unique perspectives on service learning and internship opportunities and all the glows and grows over the course of their partnerships, with the added bonus of navigating through a pandemic. After presenting, our panelists will be available for questions from the audience. We kindly ask that our audience members keep their video and audio turned off during the presentations to prevent any unintended distractions. During our Q&A portions, if you have any comments or questions, at that time, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, or if you prefer, you can type it into the chat feature and Susan will be monitoring that. This session is being recorded so that it can be accessed in the future via the CCBL events page on our website, where you'll find the link to our YouTube channel. I would like to introduce you to our panelists for today. We have Brooke McKinney and Christi Ponder, the co-executive directors of Art with a Heart in Healthcare, discussing their long-established partnership with UNF and MOCA, a cultural institution of UNF, as well as share their experiences with student volunteers and internships. Next, we will hear from Dr. Robert Zeglin, UNF Assistant Professor and Program Director of the UNF Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program. Robert will present on his outstanding work with community-based participatory action research and his insights on the role of the community partner. So let's go ahead and begin with our first panelists. So Christi, Brooke, whenever you are ready, thank you very much for being here, and please begin whenever you feel like it. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
My name is Christi Ponder, and I'm the Executive Director of Art with a Heart in Healthcare. I'm going to share my screen real quick, so give me one moment. Do it on here first. Hold on, technical difficulty, sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Share screen.
There it is. And then we go.
Can you see it now?
I cannot see it.
Hold on, sorry.
Oh, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Whoopsies. Okay, let me. There we go. I apologize for that. That was my fault. You should be good to go now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That was it.
Now, can you see it? Share.
Oh, I did that. Okay. Let me try to do it on here for now.
Okay, we're going to try something else.
Okay, it looks like something's sharing.
Okay,
There
all right. We'll share with that.
Perfect.
Okay. Art with a Heart in Healthcare is proud to have over 11 years partnership with the Museum of Contemporary Art of Jacksonville and 19-year partnership with the University of North Florida. Today, we're pleased to be able to share with you about our organization and our partnerships with MOCA and UNF. Art with a Heart in Healthcare is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated exclusively to arts and healing. Since our founding in 2001 by cousins Lori Gagagno and Lisa Landworth Ullman, we have served tens of thousands of patients and their families in the Jacksonville area. When someone you love is in the hospital, you could be feeling worried, tired, and overwhelmed just trying to make sense of all of it. Your loved one is dealing with a lot physically and emotionally. Creativity is always open to everyone, but in a hospital setting, it can be a calm island in the middle of a storm. The artists at Art with a Heart in Healthcare aren't just painting unicorns or creating your child's favorite team logo on an iPad or making your child laugh with a funny cartoon of their brother. They are offering a chance for your child to forget about being a patient for a while, which is priceless. Artistic expression promotes physical and emotional wellness, which leads to improved patient outcomes. The physicians, patients, and families we work with report that our services help relieve stress and pain while empowering patients who find themselves in a powerless situation. The heart of our program is providing individual art sessions at bedside and group art sessions in playrooms to patients at Wolfson's Children's Hospital. Currently, we are unable to provide group art sessions, but recently the hospital has opened back up the playrooms where we can provide individual art sessions for patients and their caregivers so that they still have the opportunity to get out of their hospital rooms for a while. Some of the patients that join us in the playrooms to make art have been hospitalized for weeks or months, and this could be the first time they have been able to leave their rooms. So as you can imagine, this is an indispensable escape and change of scenery that helps to lift their spirits, thus promoting health, healing, and well-being. As doctors, nurses, and other staff members care for patients, they are always pleased to see their patients engaging in art and acknowledge the positive effects it has on them. Laughter, joy, and smiles are not what anyone would expect to see in the hospital, but we witness this daily through the magic of art. Twice a week, Art with a Heart is also providing individual sessions for adult patients at the Mayo Clinic Cancer Center at St. Vincent's. This patient population greatly appreciates the opportunity to create art while receiving treatment and infusions, and even those hesitant to participate love to receive beautiful works of art that our artists can create for them. We connect with patients through many different art mediums. This includes, but is not limited to 2D art, such as drawing, painting, oil pastels, collaging, coloring pages, caricatures, and art requests, as well as 3D art, such as jewelry design, clay sculpting, and origami folding. One of my personal passions is the behavioral health art sessions. It has become an integral part of our organization, and we offer the visual arts and music group sessions we provide to pediatric and adult behavioral health patients. We have been able to continue offering group sessions for this patient population. For these groups, we provide weekly hand-pan music sessions to both inpatient and outpatient pediatric behavioral health patients at Wolfson and inpatient adult and geriatric behavioral patients at Baptist Medical Center. Twice a week, we provide visual art sessions to these patient populations as well. Patients love listening to the hand pans and trying them out for themselves. If you've never heard the sounds of hand pans, you should absolutely check out our website on Let's Make Art page and our YouTube channel. John from Streams of Sound does a wonderful job of creating a relaxing and meditative experience for patients. There are not many opportunities for fun, free time, or the chance to express themselves and explore different art mediums. So this is a much needed break from treatment for these patients as they simultaneously reap the mental and emotional benefits of creativity and art. I'm going to turn it over to Brooke now.
Okay, so since the start of COVID, we have created a virtual art program called Let's Make Art, where we have monthly art sessions in the Media Center and weekly Facebook Live art tutorials and printable custom-made coloring pages and videos and music on our website. This was started in the pandemic, but we have continued offering this because it has continued to be a way that we connect with patients. Thank you. Many of the patients we work with have chronic disease and serious illness and are homebound. So being able to see friendly, familiar faces of our artists and residents and allowing them to follow along with fun art projects helps give them a sense of enjoyment and normalcy. So if you are interested in checking any of this out, it's all on our social media, our YouTube, and the landing page called Let's Make Art on our website. And it's free to the public for anyone to follow along. So Art with a Heart also, in addition to our work in the hospital, we also put on special art projects at special events and offer art projects for support groups. So one example of the special event we participate in is the Tom Coughlin J Fund's yearly annual Remembrance Weekend, where we do an art project with families who have lost a child to pediatric cancer. And we also provide monthly art projects for a support group called Kids Together Against Cancer, where they enjoy a nice family night together, they have dinner, and then we all do an art project together. In addition to these special events, we provide our services to a number of health institutions here in Jacksonville, including Wolfson Children's Hospital, Nemours Specialty Care Clinic, Mayo Clinic Cancer Center at St. Vincent's, Baptist Medical Center, as mentioned before, with the adult and geriatric behavioral health. So volunteer opportunities right now are on pause with the hospital, but we, on a normal occasion, our volunteers come in once a month for a few hours and they work directly with our team of artists and residents and with patients in the hospital. This pictured here is one of our artists, volunteer artists named Patsy, and she has found a way to continue being involved even though she can't be in the hospital with us. She's been still creating her specialty coloring pages that we put on our website. So volunteers get a lot out of working with us. Some of them were able to participate in this year's Remembrance Weekend, so that was really special. But currently in the hospital at Wolfson, we are unable to have volunteers at this time, and we really have no information on when they'll be able to come back, but hopefully soon because we miss them. We also would have visiting artists. So these are just a little different from volunteers in that they don't come regularly monthly. They come for typically a day, and some of them will come again, but it's just a day where they come, and usually with a specific project. Pictured here is cartoonist Steve Barr, and he creates comic books for kids or cartoon books. So he came in to show how to draw his specific style of cartoon art, and the kids absolutely loved it. So the internship program is an amazing program that has been around since we started it in 2002. And since the beginning of it, we have had 90 students, over 90 students come through the program. The program was started by Louise Freshman Brown, a distinguished UNF professor in the Department of Art and Design. And after her retirement in 2019, Jason John, who is also a UNF professor in the Department of Art and Design, has picked up where she left off so the program can continue. And fortunately, we are able to have interns back with us in the fall, which is very, very exciting. We have 2 in line right now, and we can have up to 5 interns. So, and interns are welcome to come 1 semester and can come also for another semester if they choose to do so, which several of them have because they've enjoyed their experience as interns so much. And we take interns from photography, from fine art, from communications, and any student who is interested in this opportunity should reach out to Jason John. He's the point of contact now. So like I said, the interns get a lot out of this, and it proves to be a profound experience time and time again, both personally and professionally. At the end of the semester, each intern creates a work of art that holds a meaning to them personally or to Art with a Heart. Pictured here is Gabe with his reflective artwork and thoughts of his experience. He was an intern during spring of 2020, so his time on the hospital was cut short, but he did find ways to stay involved, and he ultimately did become a part of our team and helps out with a lot of behind the scenes projects, just as a way to stay involved. Other interns have gone on to become artists in residence with us, or have continued to volunteer, or have gone on to go to school for art therapy or arts and medicine. So I'm actually a former UNF intern, and I stuck around and became a volunteer, and I went to the University of Florida to get my degree, my master's degree in arts and medicine. And then I've stuck around here as an artist in residence and doing all the communications responsibilities, and I absolutely love it. And a few of my coworkers are also former interns as well. So highly recommended if you guys know anyone who is interested. So these are a couple of our other volunteers. I kind of touched on this already. So our partnership with MOCA is another one of my favorite parts of our program. Each year we create a patient art exhibition with patients at Wolfson Children's Hospital. So that's been going on for a decade now. So it's been a long-standing partnership that we have gotten some amazing patient artwork out of. So pictured here is Hajar. She was a patient in our 2019 show called Animalgamation, which we started with the question, if you could create your own animal, what would it look like? So she created the Elefly, which is a butterfly and an elephant to show her growth and change and wisdom. And she was so excited because we went on the news where she was able to talk about her artwork. So it really gives patients a sense of connection and with their community, and a sense of personal accomplishment to know that their art is in a museum, and it really helps them make something more meaningful out of their experience as a patient. So they're more than just a patient. They're a person, they're an artist, and they're a valuable member of the community. This year's show is Behind the Mask. You guys are getting an exclusive sneak peek. It will be on display at MOCA starting September 11th. We have our opening on September 12th at 2 p.m., which is open to the public. More information will be given as we figure out if we will have a virtual opening or just an in-person one, and just, kind of playing it by ear given the circumstances of the world right now. So we will keep everyone up to date as much as possible. And this project is really special because, like, obviously, as you can see with the mask, it's a direct response to the times we are in. And it was a way to use technology as a form of expression and communication, as most of us have had to do today. So their prompt for this one is, what are you thinking behind your mask? And it inspired participants to be introspective and creative while elevating self-expression, self-confidence, and self-awareness during their hospital experience. So we would love for anyone who's interested to come be a part of our opening, or at least check out the exhibition at MOCA. It'll be up until January 2nd. And that is about it. Thank you guys so much for listening to us today and letting us tell you all about our organization and our partnerships with UNF and MOCA.
Thank you very much. I love the mission. I have a connection as well. In a former life, I taught for Duval County Public Schools as both a visual art teacher and special education, but I taught 1 year for hospital homebound. So I think along the way, that's where I heard about you guys and your mission. So thank you very much. Stick around for Q&A because I definitely have questions.
Thank you.
So for our next panelist, we have Dr. Robert Zeglin, Director of UNF Clinical Mental Health Program. And Robert, whenever you are ready, go ahead and begin.
Thank you for that. I don't have a fancy presentation, so I'm already at a disadvantage to the previous presenters. So I'll try to match the quality. Yeah, my name is Rob Zeglin. I am the director of the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program here at UNF. I've been here for 4 years. And one of the things that attracted me to UNF whenever I was job hunting, I think was 2 things. Number one was my program, Clinical Mental Health Counseling, being in the College of Health. Typically that type of program is in the College of Education. And I liked having the access to health-related grants and programming and community partners. But then the second thing was that, and this seems to surprise folks that are from Duval County, but Duval County has a really high incidence and prevalence of HIV. And I am an HIV researcher. I'm a human sexuality specialist. I'm a certified sex therapist. All my research is in sex and sexuality, but particularly on HIV. And so I thought, whenever I was applying for jobs, I thought, well, we're better than Jacksonville, than UNF, where I'll be in the College of Health and be able to kind of bring my research and hopefully solve some problems as it relates to the prevalence of HIV here in Duval County. And I share all of that to preface kind of, I guess, why I'm here today, which is that in 2017, when I started at UNF, I applied for a grant and was awarded the grant. And from day one, the point of that grant was to start forming a community partnership with as many community partners as possible and with as many faculty and students as possible here at UNF, all of which are focused on improving the sexual health and education in Duval County and the surrounding area. And that all came out of this philosophy of community-based participatory research or community action research. And the spirit of that is to help faculty get out of their offices a little bit and realize that research is wonderful. I love research. I'm a researcher at heart, but it doesn't do any good if I'm just doing research for my own 4 walls. The research that I do has to have impact in the community. And unfortunately, there's this disconnect between academia and academicians and the community agencies and partners and nonprofits that are implementing services, the people that are actually doing the work. Historically, academics don't often access the knowledge and wisdom and experience and know-how of and creativity and ingenuity of community partners, and vice versa. Community partners don't have access to the most cutting edge research because often they are making decisions based off of meta-analyses, which are 10-year-old data being synthesized and then pushed out. And that's the best they have. That's the best evidence they have to make decisions about what to do today, is research that was published 10 years ago, because that's kind of the delay of research being disseminated to the community is about 10 years. So community-based participatory research, or CBPR for short, so that I don't have to keep saying those 15 syllables. CBPR is an attempt to bridge that, to bring all of the people together that are in academia and in the community, to bring them together to construct studies that are sensitive to the realities of the community and the populations being served, and are rigorous to kind of academic or research standards, particularly health related research standards. But then B, to get that research directly into the hands of the people that might need that information, so they can make decisions about their agencies or about their services or about their communities as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And I just always thought that was tremendously heartwarming and parsimonious and fun, because one of the worst experiences as a researcher is to go through this study that you're so super proud of, and then you publish it, and then you don't find out until later that, oh, there's that one thing I forgot to include that makes this unusable in real life. And so sure, I got the publication. It's going to look great on my annual evaluations, yay tenure. But in terms of usability, it's almost nil, because I didn't take into account this one really important barrier to implementation, whatever that is. And that's a problem. And so I love CBPR. I think it helps to clarify all of those things, and I think bridge that gap. So I want to talk, I guess, a little bit about what we put together and why we think it'll be helpful now that, you know, COVID shut us down. I mean, I think we all understand that sentiment. And so we put our team on hold for almost an entire year. And we're hoping to kind of get back spinning this year. But the team came together in the spring of 2018 around this grant. The grant was specifically, it's called a sex diary study. It's as fun as it sounds, for men who have sex with men in Duval County. And the reason that MSM, the men who have sex with men, is used as a term is that 75% of men who have sex with men are straight. And even the CDC acknowledges that. If you ever look at their graphs down at the bottom, it says that, but they still in the header put gay and bisexual men, even though they're not often gay and bisexual men, they're almost always straight. That's another soapbox for another day. So we wanted to look at the HIV kind of risk behaviors in Duval County so that we could target our intervention and education efforts. And so we started recruiting community partners and academics to join this team so that we can understand as comprehensively from as many vantage points and perspectives as possible what it is that we needed to do. How does the survey need to be worded? How are we going to recruit? What's a sensitive way to recruit? How can we access traditionally hard to access members of our recruitment pool? And so we got together professors. It was me. We have someone from public health. We had someone from sociology. Actually, we had a couple people from public health. One person from sociology. We had one from engineering and technology, because we were building a website infrastructure. And so Dr. Karthik Umapathi joined us as the IT. I forget, their department name is very, very long, but he's the computer guy. So we had easily a half a dozen or so academics on this team. We also had other staff from around UNF that have an interest in sexual health and wellness. So at the time, Caitlin Legg, the director of the LGBT Resource Center, she was a part of the team. We had students. So I had two interns that were, or two graduate assistants that were there. And then some of the other faculty that I mentioned also brought their graduate assistants or interns, because students, college students, they have a lot of interesting perspectives on sex and sexual behavior. And so to not have them at the table as we're trying to construct our studies is a perspective that's missed. Is just, for example, if we're trying to recruit 21-year-old people in Duval County, some of the language that I'm 34, and some of the language I use is already outdated. I continue to make TV references that no one in my class gets. And so I want to make sure that I'm staying hip and trendy so that I can access and get usable data from the participants I'm trying to get it from. And I'm certainly not cool and trendy to be able to do that myself. And so I need to get those voices heard. And then most importantly, we're our community partners. We had the Department of Health. We had a representative from the Department of Health on the team. We had folks from Jasmine, which is a local nonprofit serving gender and sexual minority teens and young adults. River Region, Planned Parenthood. I know I'm missing a ton. There was like 12 people that are staff and administrators and vice presidents and directors of community agencies here in Duval County that have an interest in advancing the sexual health and wellness of Duval County and the surrounding area. And we would get together every other month, and we co-constructed this study from the ground up. What's recruitment going to look like? What's the survey going to look like? We would have the survey up on this big like projector screen, and we would scroll through every item, and someone in the room would say, well, that's really not the term that's being used anymore in the community where we're going with, this is the term that most folks are using. And someone else would say, yeah, but that's only in this scenario. And so we would say, well, why don't we just create two options? And by having all of that, we're creating a study that really represents the phenomenon we're trying to get access. We're trying to understand. We're trying to get clarity on this. And then on the back end, all of the data that's collected after it's been anonymized and cleaned and all of that, our community partners can have links to encrypted versions of the data. So they have all of that data available to them to be able to analyze however they want to meet whatever mission or vision or goal or strategic plan or whatever is in their logic model for that year, that they can achieve those goals and have that data available to them. So they can, again, make those decisions in real time based off the data that we're getting. The really nice, and I want to go back to kind of the construction of the survey, is hearing from the community partners what's important to them that I didn't even think of. Like whole constructs that weren't on my radar. One of the ones that came from the community partners in the survey was a question that we put in the sex diary of, where did you meet this partner? Is this a partner that you live with? Did you meet them at a club? Did you meet them out at a public venue? Did you meet them online on an app? And there were like 12 options or whatever, but where'd you meet this person? And that was a community partner that wanted to know that information so that they can target education and resource provision services in those areas. If we're getting 80% of people saying they met on an app, okay, well, let's spend a little money to purchase ad space on that app, marketing testing services or marketing condom distribution or needle exchange or whatever. So let's make data-driven decisions with the community. The part of this that I love is the idea that the academic involved in community-based participatory research also has to, in order for that relationship to be the strongest it can be, help that community directly or help that community agency directly. We all, as faculty, we all have expertise, right? That's what got us here. For me, for example, as a licensed therapist, being able to, and this was one of the really sad things that had to be put on hold because of COVID, we were just getting ready to launch a support group led by me, focusing on the trans and gender diverse community and their loved ones after experiences of violence and discrimination, to help process all that comes up whenever that community does experience very real. I mean, there was one year that Duval County led the nation in murders of trans women. That's not exactly a reputation that I'm proud of as a new Duval County resident. And we were seeing a tremendous need that the victims and their families had nowhere really to go to process a lot of that. And that group was free for anybody that was referred from one of the members of our team. Our team, I forgot to mention the name. It was so clever. This was really the hardest part, was figuring out an acronym or an initialism for the group. And it was CSHERI, the Community Sexual Health Education and Research Initiative. That was by far the hardest part, not the NIH grant or anything. The hardest part was figuring out a catchy initialism for the group. And so we went with CSHERI. But as long as it was a community, the client was referred from a community partner that's a member of CSHERI, they got free group therapy. We still have that ready to go whenever COVID does finally go away. but that unfortunately was shelved for 2020, the year of 2020. Some of Dr. Karthik Umapathi, he volunteered his services that if any of our community partners need to revamp their website and maybe can't afford I forget what the web designer, I think is the name of it, can't afford a web designer, he was going to work with his students to be able to do that, as long as it was a C-sharing member, community partner member. Some of our public health folks would volunteer by taking their services and their education into those community partner agencies and providing whatever their expertise was. And so it was just, that's the whole point, is this kind of back and forth, so that the community partner benefits from the expertise and the access that the faculty have, but then also the faculty benefit by having access to the knowledge, wisdom, creativity, and that whole list, and participants that come from community partners. I love CBPR. I can't wait to get back to it now that COVID is going away. A lot of my projects, I had 3 grant projects that all kind of had to go on hiatus in 2020 because everything changed. And when you're doing sex diary studies, I mean, COVID completely changed how people have sex too. So it was incredibly difficult to do a sex diary study during a pandemic where everybody's behaviors changed. Like no one was going out to restaurants because the restaurants were closed. But like it was a completely different ballgame. So I'm very much looking forward to revving these back up and getting to see my friends in the community in real life again. I think that's everything for me. I can't think of anything else. Like I said, I didn't have the fancy PowerPoint. I hope my wild gesticulations, because I talk with my hands, was as entertaining as could be, but I'm happy to answer questions from anybody.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely have questions for all of our speakers today. So at this time, we are going to move into the Q&A portion of the webinar and invite participants to ask panelists any questions they may have. You can unmute yourself to ask your question. You can pop it in the chat. Also, if our guest speakers have questions for each other, you are more than welcome. Let's see, I have a few questions, but some of the things you've said led me to other ones. Robert, I did want to ask, your survey, is it all quantitative or do you have any qualitative for your participants?
That's a great first question. I'm a quantitative thinker. I think in numbers, and you'd think as a therapist that wouldn't be true, but I'm a quantitative person. But thankfully, I think through CBPR, there was a lot of qualitative stuff that the community partners, especially DOH, the representative from DOH, really had a lot of qualitative questions that couldn't be easily quantified. And so through all of that, the short answer to your question is there is qualitative, but not as a result of my creativity. It came directly out of that CBPR process that several people wanted questions answered that could only be answered qualitatively. And so it did end up having some qualitative stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Brooke and Christi, could you tell me a little bit about your process for getting partners, identifying them? Do they reach out to you or vice versa?
Most of them reach out to us, and they really have to have a healthcare mission that following our mission, because we are healthcare driven. So most, like Kids Together Against Cancer, those are a family member that's been diagnosed with cancer, and we work with the whole family. Or with the J Fund, we work with the J Fund a lot with those patients who are in treatment at Wolfson or at Nemours, but also when they lose a child at the Remembrance Weekend. So we're really geared towards the healthcare environment.
Thank you. And your interns, and I know you're kind of putting volunteers on hold, but do they reach out to you, or do they need to kind of go through faculty?
They go through faculty, and Jason John would report to us, and then after they get permission from him, then they would come to us, and then we put them through the process here through the hospital, which is a long process. It takes a while, so they need to be prepared ahead of time. They need a good month to get through the process, and it is an expensive process, but we do have a scholarship fund for those interns to reimburse them.
Do they have to get fingerprinted and that sort of thing?
Yes, they do. They have to have a background check. They have a drug test. They that sort of immunization, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Most everything that they would immunization would be like they would have from the school. A lot of the records they can get from the school. They do the background check there at UNF at the police office right there on the campus. So it's not as strenuous that way. It's just the long process through the hospital.
Right. Yeah. A lot of our College of Ed folks sort of know the process. They have to do it as well. So this next question, really, I guess any of our panelists today can talk about it. What does a mutually beneficial partnership mean to you? So in the CBL, community-based learning biz, we would refer to it as transformational. So I don't know who wanted to start, maybe Rob?
Sure. I was hoping to have the time to think of the answer. So
I'm sorry.
No. And I think this opportunity gives me a chance to address, I think, something I forgot to mention in my presentation, which is the students. And I mentioned the students being on C-Sherry, but I know that, again, COVID kind of messed things up, but I know of at least 2 of the students that started C-Sherry as interns or GAs ended up working at one of the community partners upon graduation. One went on to work for CAN Community Health, which was on C-Sherry, and the other went to go work for UF Health, which we had a representative from as well. So I think that one of the nice things about C-Sherry is it attracted the students that had this interest in sexual health and wellness, but then they got to sit at the table with the leadership of of these community agencies and know these folks professionally as they're preparing for graduation. And so it was a really great way for UNF students to get that kind of face time. I don't know what to call it, but this face time with leadership of these agencies, and then end up getting jobs, which is what we're all training our students to get anyway. But now I think I'll make this fast to directly answer your question. I think that's why I like community-based participatory research, is that it's only CBPR if it's mutually exclusive or mutually beneficial. If it's not mutually beneficial, then it's not CBPR. It has to be meeting the needs of both parties. And I think that, and again, the therapist in me likes to think that by the coming together as a group and everybody kind of sharing what their priorities are and their mission is, because remember, this is a table of people that are all fighting for the same grant money. And so they're all coming together to come up with ideas and strategies and priorities, knowing that when they leave the room, they're all applying to the same Florida Blue grant, for example, right? And so I think by coming to the room and being honest about what we're all trying to accomplish and what their needs are, and the faculty being forthright about what our needs are, participants and all of that, I think there's honesty and genuineness in the room that will allow everybody to get their needs met, because it's not competitive. We're all trying to accomplish the same goal. That's the only way CBPR can really work. Otherwise, it's just not CBPR. So leave it to a therapist to say, just show up and be genuine. But that's kind of my answer.
A lot of good points. And Christi and Brooke, so you're sort of on, you would be considered the community partner in a way. So what do you think a mutually beneficial partnership would mean from your perspective in your organization?
Just one off the top of my head, we have many, but UNF, I mean, to be able to get these interns that are kind of handpicked between John and Louise Freshman Brown, and to find that special type of student who would A, enjoy the healthcare environment, B, be able to handle the emotional aspects that go with that. Because this is a hard job, not just physically, emotionally. You are working with some of the sickest children around. And to be able to find those sort of special interns who want to come in and work with us, and then after their school program's over, to choose to volunteer with us until we can hire them for these positions. I mean, Lori Presto, who was an intern with UNF, one of the first ones actually, I mean, she's been with us for 16 years. And to be able to have those sort of relationships and I think, and like we said, we've had 90 interns come through our program. That's a very successful partnership, and that's such a great partnership for both of us.
And I wanted to ask, your volunteers, when you can have them, are they also mostly UNF, or do they kind of come
They
from
run
all
the
over?
gamut. They come from everywhere. I have a retired art teacher from Bowles. I have UNF students. I've got, you name it. Just someone who has the passion to be able to work with critically ill children, and be able to understand that these critically ill children come and go. And, you know, it's not unusual for us to work with a patient for 10 years. They go into remission, they come back, they go in, you know, so those are it's very important for us as an organization, for us to make sure we take care of our artists. We have weekly staff meetings that, you know, we go over the day-to-day stuff, but it's really a checking in with my team to make sure you're good. Do you need to take a break from the floor? If so, we always have things in the office that need to be done, and everybody's got to make sure they're taking care of you know, they know themselves well enough to know that they need to check out for a little bit. We've got you. But it's an emotionally grueling job.
Yeah, I understand that. Let's see.
I think our lone attendee has a question.
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was great to hear everyone, and it is you're doing a great job. I really loved each one of the presentation. So giving a introduction to myself, I did my PhD in rural health. So back at that time, I was in India, and I did my PhD in improving maternal health through knowledge management. So that is how I came across this population health, and I worked for some time in neonatal care, and to bring, you know, in India, the rural area, there is a lot of trouble of healthcare availability. There are accessibility, and there is a lot still needs to be done there. So when I started working with them, then I was like, I felt at that time the need to work as a management. I am a management information system person. So I thought that not being a doctor, how you can help them. And then we did a lot of things in trying to make the community so accessible, and created a model at that time. So that's why I liked and loved each one of your presentation. So my question from Christi and Brooke, so how do you conceptualize? I know it's such a, emotionally tall, I would say. It's emotionally taking when you go to those kids, you know, they have such a disease, and you go and try to manage. So how do you conceptualize like what you need to do there, and how do you convince the family members that you will be with them, make them happy? I mean, they are already so upset. So how do you do that?
Ready? Brooke wants to answer this one.
That's a really great question. The thing with us is that we offer the art experience to anybody who wants to do it, and we strive to be as inclusive as possible, regardless of the patient's physical abilities. We'll find a way to make it work. Well, you know, whether it's setting up something in their bed to where, or they're telling me what colors to do and I'm creating something for them. But with kids, you really don't have to do too much convincing. They are usually just overjoyed to have an art experience, and many of them know art with a heart, especially the chronic disease and terminal, or not terminal, but like
Our frequent flyers.
right. But you know, a really important aspect of it is also the ability to say no. So for people who are not wanting to do it, we don't make them or try to convince them to do anything. And in fact, that's something that sets artists and residents aside from art therapists, is that we do not have a medical agenda. We are not going in there trying to go further into their emotional or physical trauma. We are professional artists who facilitate art and creative activities for kids. And so for them to be able to tell us, no, I don't want to participate, is a really empowering thing for them just in and of itself. So yeah, that if they don't want to do it, then they can say no. And that might be the only thing in the hospital that they can say no to. And they actually get to be respected, and we take no for an answer, and that's fine.
I also like to touch on the fact that when we go in to work with a patient, we may be there just for a few minutes at first, but when a parent sees that child laughing or asking the next time, oh, where's Art with a Heart? Can they come in and do some? I mean, it's a relief for the parents too, to be able to say, okay, my kid's doing something normal, something fun. And in this awful situation, they are able to do something that's just every day for them. And to be able to have the parents participate and laughing and bringing them together on something during this tumultuous time, I mean, it's just a very powerful experience.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
So I have one more question for Rob. So as I told you that I did my PhD in maternal health, so I was supposed to go and take the first-hand data, and I interviewed more than 300 women by learning a language which I didn't know at that time. And before that, I had a sample size for that. So my question is, how do you convince people to be a part of your community research? And I was looking forward to any kind of maternal health or similar community research so that I can be a part of that program, but I couldn't find any such. But this was one of very interesting, and that's why I came and I see. So,
great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and wow for that dissertation. Wow. So how do I mean, bribery. It's that easy. I think it's really about, my experience was that we all on C-Share, we all truly understand that Duval County, and again, without getting on too much of a soapbox of mine, Duval County's hurting when it comes to sexual health and wellness knowledge and education. There's a lot of sociocultural reasons for that. There's a lot of political reasons for that. And so I think all of us, the faculty in the room, the community partners in the room, the students in the room, I think we all understand that we've got a bit of an uphill battle when it comes to promoting sexual health and wellness in Duval County. It's just that is experienced differently for all the stakeholders that are at that table. And when we can all have that shared experience, there's a group therapy theorist, Irvin Yalom, who calls it universality, that the best groups are the ones that understand their shared sense of universality early on in the lifespan of the group. And I think that happened with C-Share. We all had that universality of, yeah, it's a struggle to promote a lot of this, given our geographic placement. And that shared commiseration, I think, is what allowed us to start to recruit folks. The other thing that I think helped is that once we started to get bigger, because we started off with just 6 of us, and then we started to get more and more interest. And so we instituted a rule that new faculty that wanted to join, because it is really attractive to faculty to join because they have access to all these wonderful agencies that have participants for all their studies, but we didn't want it to turn into faculty not taking advantage, because none of us would do that, but just, that power imbalance. We created a rule that every new faculty had to bring on board a community partner. So it stayed 50-50. So it wasn't like 18 faculty and 4 community partners. And so that's how we ended up getting a lot of our community partners to join, was that faculty member already had a relationship with Planned Parenthood, is one that came on board this way. So that faculty member of Planned Parenthood already had a relationship. Now they're both in C-Sherry, which means now they're connected to all these other folks and vice versa. And so from there, it just kind of snowballs up. One, and I'm going to put in a shameless plug actually, but I'm doing a presentation, I think in spring. It's under the Office of Faculty Enhancement or whatever, it's called You're a Wizard, Harry, the research sorting hat, because I'm a Harry Potter fan. That new faculty or faculty that want to build community collaborations, it's me and a panel of folks to kind of connect you with, it's like C-Sherry Light, where we're all going to show up. It's not all sexual health, but we're all going to show up and hear from faculty what their research interests are, who they want to connect with, who they've been looking to find. And I'm sure, based off the people I'm going to try to get on the panel, that somebody on the panel is going to know someone to connect faculty with, so the faculty can start to grow some of these things. Like when you said maternal health, I'm immediately thinking of my contact at Planned Parenthood. So if you want to come to that session,
Sure.
I think,
When is that going to?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know. I'm doing 4 of them, and each one's different. I don't remember the dates of which one's which, but it's on the website for the Office of Faculty Enhancement, OFE. So if you go on that website, it's there. I wish I had the date. I don't remember.
Yeah. Generally, most of the people are fans of Star Wars and all, but when I teach my students, and all my questions are those Harry Potter, and so they are like, okay, we are fans of Star Wars. I say, okay. Thank you very much. It was so enlightening.
Yeah, good conversation. I did have a question. I'm noticing both Art with a Heart and Robert, you work with these vulnerable populations, for lack of a better term, with that already existing, and then the pandemic. How do you deal with burnout, either from maybe faculty, community partners, your interns, volunteers, yourselves? So I'd like to hear a little bit about that. And let's start with either Christi or Brooke, whoever wanted to kind of tack that.
I think it's really important that we all take our weekend time and really, we are a very close group of artists, and we really, it's become almost like a family, I think we could say. And we really look after each other. We're a team we've been together for a long time, but I really think it's important that we all have our quiet time. I have to say the behavioral health areas of the floor and pediatrics and adults have skyrocketed, and the cases are they're a lot right now. So to make sure that, I've got to have my hour of reading time every night where I get to just close myself off and just do brainless reading. But yeah, you got to make sure you take care of yourself, because this whole COVID thing is taking a toll, I think, on a lot of people.
Yeah, and going off of what Christi said, like everyone who works here is very close, and so I am comfortable enough with them to be like, I saw this patient today, it made me feel this way, and just talking things out, it really helps. So I think that's huge. It's just not bottling it up. And for a while, we were kind of keeping like a patient log. So I feel like once you put it down and you write like what happened, and then it's just out of you and it's somewhere else. And so those are practices that help not only us, but our organization and our cohesion for the future working with patients. We can all be on the same page.
Yeah, that's good advice. And Rob, how do you deal with burnout with some of your research and all the faculty and partners that you work with?
Chocolate and video games. That does the trick. I think I get to cheat a little bit as a therapist. So much of our training is how to avoid burnout. because I mean, and Brooke and Christi know this experience of working with people when they are at their most vulnerable, when they are at their most hurt. It can take a lot out of you. And so much of our training is on that, on self-care. And I like to think that I practice what I preach. We try to teach our students to have basically 4 self-care strategies at any given time. 2 that can happen kind of in the moment, constantly when you need them, and then 2 that are these big grand events, like maybe going shopping on the weekend or something like that. And that it's almost like a matrix. So you've got the immediate one and then the long-term one. And then one of those should be intrapersonal, meaning things you do for yourself, like meditation or something like that. And then one should be interpersonal, something you do with other people. And so those 4 should be pretty sustaining. And for me, I mean, video games wasn't a lie. I'm not a big fan of chocolate, interestingly, but don't judge me. Video games, I think, are my kind of constant thing. I try to go home and decompress by just vegging out with some video games and potato chips. And I think that does the job. But then I think between clients or between classes or when I'm doing, Rita, what'd you say, 350 interviews, just doing those little things in between interviews or in between sessions to ground yourself so that you're not just stacking stories on top of stories in your emotional bank, taking those little breaks and in between mental breaks. I know that wasn't a straightforward answer, but I wanted to be cognizant of time. But those 4 strategies tend to help if you think of it that way. If you can fill each of those 4 boxes, you're probably okay. It certainly works for me.
I absolutely agree. I call them brain breaks, personally. All right, well, we're getting near that time, so I believe that concludes the Q&A portion for our panelists. I'd like to thank all of you for attending our webinar, Transformational Partnerships and Weathering the Storms Together. I'd like to especially thank Brooke McKinney, Christi Ponder, and Robert Zeglin for your work as panelists today and sharing your experiences with community-based partnerships and the pivots you've made in response to the pandemic and what those residual effects may look like for your upcoming year. It is definitely most appreciated, so thank you. I hope you've enjoyed our session today, the last session of our summer 2021 Back to the Community series. If you'd like to share or revisit any of this information in the future, this session, along with our previously recorded CCBL webinars, can be found on our YouTube channel, which can be accessed via the CCBL events page on our website. If you'd like to know more about community-based learning or how to get involved, please feel free to contact me. I will drop my email and a couple of links to our website in the chat. Again, thank you for participating today. Please share these opportunities with your colleagues, and we look forward to seeing you at future events in our office or doing great work out in the community. So take care, everyone. Thank you very much for being here.